hopefully, hopefully, but it may be triggering for some, just to let you know, but hopefully it won't. So I'm gonna try to say it as much as I can in love, and of course to get my point across without, of course, like I said, hopefully triggering someone. But if it does trigger you, cut it off, come back, regroup, you'll be okay. So let's go ahead and get into this. This video today is talking about age gap relationships and the caregiving reality. And a lot of you all may or may not know, but I'm a social worker. I'll be 27 years in the field in the next few months. In May 2026 will be 27 years for me. And right now I'm actually working with caregivers in the family caregiving department, working with caregivers as far as doing, of course, intakes, giving them resources, all those types of things, working through issues. But also, the main thing I do is I facilitate 11 caregiver support groups a month. So, like I said, that's where this information today is coming from. Not just coming from this, but of course, personal family stories and that kind of thing as well. Because age gap relationships are across the board for me, like I said, in family and at work too. So I see that every single day. And when I mean age gap relationships, I'm talking about those relationships where, say, I'm 49 and my husband is 80 years old, or my husband is 60, or my husband is 70, or my husband is, I don't know, 59 or that kind of thing, more than 10 years. At least to me, that's a big age gap when it comes to relationships. And there's something we need to think about. I have to think about when it comes to, like I said, saying, of course, in saying, of course, I commit to this person in sickness and health, whatever that may look like for y'all, whatever y'all commitment looks like, whether you're married or not. If you're in this kind of commitment, of course, like I said, this video will be for you. And of course, it applies to other relationships too, because anything can happen to anybody on any given day. But this is specifically for age gap relationships. And again, when we say in sickness and in health, we definitely commit real easy to all these. I know that because I've been there too. But like I said, a lot of people don't really stop and think about what that might eventually look like, especially in the age gap relationship. And this has been sitting with me, like I said, since yesterday. Yesterday, I was facilitating a caregiver support group, and someone came in talking about her partner. I think the partner was like 30 years or better, like 30 years older than this particular person was. So, like I said, that's not the first situation I've heard. I've heard many other situations as well. Somebody that's 20 years older, somebody that's 10 years older, somebody that's sometimes even 5 years older makes a difference. But like I said, definitely, like I said, this just been sitting with me since yesterday, and I want to make sure that I came on here and did a video about this, just to, like I said, just to get those brains churning. I guess I put it that way. And like I said, I hear about these kind of situations in every single support group, just about. I have 11 a month. And of course, I've had this in my family as well, as not just at work. Like I said, I've had this personally in my family too, age gap relationships. And just know that this isn't me telling anybody who to love or what kind of relationship to be in. No, I will never tell you that. I'll tell myself that, yes, and I'll let you know what I thought, what was going through my mind, that kind of thing. I always do that. So, but like I said, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life or what kind of relationship to be in. That's a choice you'd have to make. Like I said, that's not what this is. What I'm talking about, this is something I think people need to hear about, like I said before, when it comes to age gap relationships. Because a lot of people, of course, we don't think about it. Like I said, we're thinking about the commitment and the intimacy and all these types of things, and not the how the age gap can actually look as we definitely get older. And what I have noticed, like I said, in my own family, and of course in the clients that I work with, in the caregiving support groups, like I said, definitely, I see all the time that one partner is still young, still vibrant, still working, still doing all these things, and active, and while the other's health starts declining. And the other person's health, like I said, if they're 20 years older, 30 years older, meaning that you're 40 and they're 70 or 60 or something like that, does start declining at some point. And I think we kind of all know that. I know that as well. And health decline can look like memory loss. It can look like somebody having a stroke. It can be a heart attack. It can be anything along those lines, or anything else that you can think of, any type of other diagnosis as well. And like I said, at that point, um, when it comes to relationships and those kind of things, we have to look at, of course, shifting from, of course, being partners to, of course, caregiving, unfortunately. And like I said, I hear this story a lot. And like I said, I saw it play out in my own eyes with my grandfather as well. He was the older person in the relationship. His wife was the younger person. So like I said, I definitely can see how this, like I said, can definitely play out as I saw it playing out over the last several decades. I guess I put it that way as well. And like I said, when it comes to that one partner that's, of course, going into the caregiving mode, and like I said, somebody shifting to health being declining, like I said, that's definitely a different kind of love, y'all. And when we're in love, thinking about connecting, chemistry, intimacy, and all these types of things, like I said, we're not thinking about, usually most times, will I be ready to take care of this person full time one day? Meaning that, like I said, I've seen it all. Meaning that, am I ready to quit my job to, of course, take care of this person because they can no longer get out of bed? Or am I willing to, of course, to not take my trips or wherever it's going to be in order to take care of this person? Like I said, to definitely to make sure that their health stays intact for as long as they can. I guess I put it that way, and give them some type of quality of living. And thank you, Story KK, for tuning in. I hope you're doing well. I appreciate that. And like I said, some questions just to think about. And like I said, these are coming from personally, and of course coming from the caregiver support groups that I do facilitate. And some three things to think about. Have you all ever talked about what that might look like once one person's health starts declining? Like I said, I know that is not anything that people really want to think about. Even if you're not even in an age gap relationship, we have a hard time thinking about this. But like I said, have you talked about that? How that's going to look? Do you know what each person would want if something was to happen? Their health was to decline, or somebody's getting too sick, or that type of thing. Do you know what the other person would want? And the reason why I'm asking that is that there are documents that you all, of course, can document these things on, like the power of attorney documents, or there's actually one document that's specifically for a person what they want at the end of life, and it's called the 5 wishes. We have those in my job too. We give them out regularly, and we do the power of attorney documents and those types of things as well. But of course, like I said, we all have to think about this in some type of capacity. Like I said, death and in the life and getting sick is nothing nobody wants to talk about. But like I said before, when you're dealing with the age gap relationship, this is definitely something that's going to come up. And like I said, we have to think about, do we know what each other would want if something would happen to us? If we get too sick, we can't voice our needs anymore. Because that does happen to some people. I've seen that. My grandfather, he had ALS towards the last maybe year. He was a pastor, so he was always speaking before that and that kind of thing, in person, doing different sermons, doing stuff online. And like I said, towards like the last year of his life, he couldn't even speak anymore. He couldn't even move and get out the bed anymore. So like I said, these types of things happen, and we have to, like I said, we at some point we have to know what our partner would want if something happened to us or happened to them. We have to have a plan in place. Are you both on in the last question? Are you both on the same page about what support looks like? Because I know I hate to say this, but I know that there are some people who will not stick around if their partner got sick. And I have seen people leave in divorce and that type of thing as well. Unfortunately, like I said, I know it's heartbreaking to hear and that kind of thing. But being a social worker for all these decades, I've seen it happen. And it's not happened just once, it's happened several times. People will leave if you're getting sick and that kind of thing. And you have to keep giving this person support, but you're not tired, but you're not ready to stop working and stop traveling, stop doing all these things. We have to think about what, like I said, how to get on the same page about what the support may look like. And if that's not what you're wanting to do, like I said, I've had others leave, unfortunately. But these are the kind of conversations that, of course, we don't want to have, but we have to have them, y'all. And I have to have these same conversations with clients too. And like I said, I'm not trying to scare anybody. All I'm just saying this because if you truly love someone, you don't just love them for the good moments. You love them for the bad moments too. Like I said, I'm definitely not trying to scare you because I know that death and sickness and all this is a very scary and very in-depth topic that, like I said, triggers a lot of people. I deal with it every single day. So of course I can't say I'm used to it like that, but like I said, I deal with it every single day. So I am kind of used to it in a certain aspect. And I've dealt with this a lot in my family and been around folks dying and caregiving and that kind of thing too. So I see how it looks and what can go on. But like I said, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to say this, because if you love somebody, you don't just love them for the good moments. Again, you love them through the hard parts too. Like I said, caregiving is definitely a beautiful thing. But when I see these caregivers coming to these support groups, they're exhausted emotionally, physically. This is a life changing situation that they're in. Like I said, they didn't create this situation. Health issues are going to happen for all of us at some point. And like I said, in some cases, we do have to have a caregiver. In some cases, a lot of cases, if you're married or in a committed relationship, that is going to be your partner, unless that person for some reason decides to leave because they can't deal with it. And some people do that. But like I said, we have to talk about these things. Y'all get on the same page or figure out what's going to happen when these things do come up, y'all. Because like I said, they're definitely life changing. And a lot of people don't realize all the mental, like I said, mental exhaustion, the physical exhaustion, how hard it is on your body, and all those types of things until they're actually in it. And like I said, a lot of people don't realize until they're in it. That's what at least 90% of my caregivers have said. My clients have said they didn't realize how hard it was going to be or what this may look like until they're actually in it. So if you're in an age gap relationship or considering one, like I said, don't just skip the hard conversations, y'all. We have to have these difficult ones too. Because like I said, because in sickness and in health, that part is definitely real as well. We're all going to get to that point at some point. And we have to, like I said, I work with caregivers all the time, having to help them plan how this is going to look, plan for what their sickness and their health may look like for solo singers and for those who are couples as well. For those solo singers, meaning that people who don't have a partner but they're alone at this stage of life. Like I said, it's definitely sometimes sad situations to see them go through and try to plan with them as well. Like I said, definitely these age gap relationships, like I said, there is planning to be done. And like I said, people like me, whether it's a social worker or somebody you're dealing with, even your own family or your pastor can help too, if you're needing that kind of planning. Or if you need somebody else to talk to about these things, I guess I put it that way as well. Like I said, I'm one person that's here, and there's others, I'm sure, in your city, your town, your state, that type of thing as well. But like I said, we have to have these hard conversations, y'all, eventually and unfortunately. So with that, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and get off this video. I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate that. Frank, Starry, and Ezekiel, like I said, thank you all like I said, for being here in the video this morning. I appreciate that. And of course, if you hear this afterwards, make sure if this is a topic that you want to hear about, not just age gap relationships, but I do talk about relationships as well, life and those types of things. And of course, my experiences across these 27 years as a social worker, as a human, as a Black woman, those types of things too. So like I said, definitely I'm here to help women, like I said, of course, speak their truth, be who they are, and of course, like I said, have the best life that they can. And part of this is dealing with relationships too. So with that, y'all, like I said, if you like what you heard, make sure that you, of course, subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so that you can receive all the notifications when I go live or when I'm posting a video up for you all. So with that, y'all, take care. Have a good one. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out, y'all.